Hi everyone, welcome to the 42nd episode of the Zicast. As always, I'm your host Ryan Ziax, and today I'm joined by producer Erin Christensen.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. I'd like to shout out our TD, Erin Russell, and today we have the Erin cast with both of you, and thank you for stepping in to help Erin.
Of course.
So,
I love it.
Erin, I think you know a bit about the Zicast. I interview my friends and get to know them better, and I'm really excited to get to know about you, so how about you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a senior here at Quinnipiac. I'm a media studies major, minoring in film and PR as well. And I also am a producer for our live entertainment news show, #that. And that's a newer role for me, so it's been very exciting stepping into that role and learning some new things. And yeah, I'm just super excited to be a part of this. I'm someone who listens to podcasts more than I listen to music, so it's kind of interesting to be in the seat and try it out. I also use a lot of filler words, so let's see if I could use like and minimally throughout this process.
Yeah, that's been the name of the game for me, is to try to use those less. And I rewatch all of these Zicasts and always hear myself doing it. So do not worry at all. And where are you from?
I'm from Long Island. I'm from Huntington. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very nice. Do you have Southern roots?
I don't.
You don't?
No, I don't.
Interesting. 'Cause you give Southern charm in a lot of
Really?
ways.
That's
I don't know
funny.
why, but I was curious if you had any Southern roots.
Mm-mm.
That's interesting.
I don't.
But one thing you did do is transfer school. So to begin our
Yes.
first topics, I'd like to ask you kind of like your experience as a transfer student and what led you to Quinnipiac.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started out at SUNY Oneonta, and honestly, even when I graduated high school, I wasn't at the same stage as my peers in terms of thinking about where I wanted to go to school. That kind of came later for me, and so I applied where I thought I would get in. There wasn't, I'm going to be honest, there wasn't a ton of options that I had left myself. Like in high school, my journey was definitely a little bit different. Like academically, I didn't perform super well. So by the time I graduated, I didn't have a ton of options. So I ended up going to Oneonta, which was one of two schools that I got into. And right when I got there, I think that's when it hit me that I was at college. And all of a sudden I was really focused on school, which wasn't something I was used to, never came naturally to me. So it was really interesting to go there and kind of have that switch. And I started finally understanding what I wanted for myself, and I realized that the location wasn't fully for me. I met some great people while I was there, don't get me wrong, like that was never a problem, but just the environment and also like academically, I think going into communications was a little intimidating for me, because oftentimes you hear people say, oh, you're going to major in communications, like what are you going to do with that? That's a very useless degree. Meanwhile, that's all my interest, you know what I mean? That's from a young age I've loved film, acting, music, and really just wanted to be a part of this industry. So once I finally had the confidence to be like, no, I want to be in a school of communication somewhere, I want to, you know, be a producer, I want to join the student media organizations. Once I finally started like putting myself out there, I was like, you know what, let me start researching other schools and see, you know, what else there is, because I didn't really do that proper research in high school. Like I said, I wasn't fully thinking about my future in the way I should have. And then I started researching. I ended up looking at different schools like Syracuse, Fordham, Quinnipiac, and then I did an open house here, and there was a little panel with students talking about their experiences, and each had a different major. I think there was a film major, journalism, and media studies, and I was instantly so inspired by each one of those students. I mean, hearing them talk about the amount of opportunities there was on campus, and you were really encouraged to put yourself out there, and everyone was so willing to help, and you know, they were like, reach out with any questions, and right away I was like, I want to be a part of this. Like this is super exciting. And I applied. I got in. I was so thrilled. And then just coming here has been the greatest decision I've ever made. I almost saw that change in myself like instantly because I was putting the focus on, you know, what I wanted to really learn about. And it makes all the difference when you really just listen to yourself and you don't, you know, kind of worry about what your peers are doing or, you know, like the kind of the route that they're trying to take. You just really got to, you know, listen to yourself. And once I did that, everything started to work out, and I just started to feel more comfortable. And yeah, and the whole college experience just took a whole 180 for me after that.
I relate to that on many, many levels as a transfer student myself. Like when I had your executive producer, one of them, Michael Katz-Flynn, on here, we talked about being transfer students, and we had a very similar track to you where we were kind of at schools where we were not really finding ourselves, not studying the things we wanted to, and then we came here and did that. Like I was an English student at my previous school. I was stuck doing that here because of majoring, but it very much, getting to come here and do film, like it very much tapped into something I'd always wanted to do. And I know you felt the same coming here to do that. Like what really drew you to wanting to study film here at Quinnipiac too?
So I took film classes at my previous university as well, and those were pretty much the only classes that I felt fully inspired in and super excited to do all of my assignments, and didn't just feel like I was trying to get a requirement out of the way. So when I was talking to Rosa, who helps me with all the transfer, yes, she's absolutely incredible. But she said to me, she was like, listen, I think the film minor would be really appealing to you based off your interests, and we actually have like a writing track for it too. And instantly I was hooked. I mean, that was always like the super cool part about film to me too, just even like the fact that just the creative process of getting the idea out there, you know. And so I was like, yeah, I definitely want to be a film minor. And just seeing the program itself is just incredible, and the classes that they have and the professors here, I mean, all around, it was an easy yes for me to be a film major right up or film minor, excuse me.
Yeah, and it's funny, exact same thing for me, film minor, talk to Rosa. And yeah, what year did you transfer in? Sorry, don't worry.
I transferred my spring semester of sophomore year. So it was a little bit on the later side because initially I wasn't sure if the school was the problem or if I was the problem. Because, you know, there was definitely times where I could have put myself out there more when I first got to school. And I think my parents saw that too. And they're like, listen, we're totally open to you transferring and we want you to be happy. But make sure you're putting in that effort to, you know, enjoy the school and just see what's out there. Like, and make sure, you know, it's not just like something you're feeling. And if you need to, you know, come home and like if there's a different problem at hand. And so once I got myself involved with the student media there, I was really enjoying it. It definitely like opened doors for me as well, but I still wasn't feeling that connection with the school or with the classes or with any of the majors either. And then that's kind of where I decided, you know, like I definitely have to make this switch. It's not just a me problem. It's not, I'm not the reason why I'm enjoying this university. It's just there's other things out there for me that I need to find, and, you know, and that's exactly what I did, and it made all the difference.
Yeah, that's very telling, because of course everyone has a story, and everyone's story is different, and especially in mine, I feel like, are you a late bloomer, you would say?
Absolutely.
I can sense that because I am very much one too. Like you said, spring semester, sophomore year. I was fall semester of my junior year, so I came in here as an unk. I was already an old head coming in here, and I felt like a first year.
Yeah.
It's like everything is very new. People think you're a first year when you're a transfer student.
It's very interesting. It's a very interesting experience.
Maybe it's because I'm so youthful.
Right?
I think it's because nobody knew who I was. and so you have to learn so much quickly, but you've been able to very much acclimate yourself and find yourself now here at Q30 with #that. And I kind of experienced a very similar thing. So I'm glad that we can relate on that level, because it is a really difficult thing being a transfer student, and it is a really difficult thing
Yeah.
kind of finding yourself so late in your time here.
Yeah.
Like, what other things do you believe helped you in that way to kind of find yourself?
I would say it all comes down to just, again, you really need to put yourself out there. That's something that took me a really long time to realize, especially when I first transferred here. You know, I would go to Q30 like here and there and sign up for some of the smaller positions like doing camera and things like that. You know, very low maintenance, you know, things that I didn't really have to like be out of my comfort zone for. But once I stopped feeding into those like anxious feelings that were like, what if you just stay home tonight and you don't go to the club meeting and this, that, and the third, you don't have to show up by yourself, you can just stay here. Instead, I put myself in an uncomfortable position, and that's when I was finally able to like learn about myself and realize, I want to be behind the desk. I kind of want to get in that control room. Like, like putting myself out there and just going out of my comfort zone is really what has allowed me to find like the creative side of myself and just be more confident and try out new things. That's the only way you're going to know like what your interests are. So I think you just really need to push yourself.
And that's really the battle within it is like, I could stay home and not have to kind of do these difficult things with people I don't know. And that's really how you can accomplish things. It's just by jumping right into it. And I feel like that also helps you to express yourself more, where like I've certainly felt that, where maybe I've expressed myself too much on here and on the internet. But however, I do feel that that's really how you grow and that's really how you change. But kind of going into something I'm sure that's been a part of you for a while, I'd like to ask you about your New York sports fandom.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up with two older brothers who were very into sports my whole life. And so from a young age, I kind of copied them right off the bat. And I was like, oh, we're sports fans? Perfect. Me too. So, always watching football games, which is the only New York sports fandom we are not a part of.
Really? My
brothers are randomly Saints fans. And I couldn't tell you why, but I just listened. So now I'm a Saints fan too.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's the one. Football is the one sport where we're not New York fans. But with basketball, the Knicks is like a huge thing for my family. I mean, watching the games is like a whole event in itself. We're making dinner, we're just gonna have a good time. And as well as the Rangers too. They've been a huge part of our family. We always sit down and watch these games together.
Also, I know you always have Yankee stuff on too. Have you been to any games? I know you're definitely a big fan.
Yeah, so this summer I actually got to go to one game towards the end of June, I believe. And it was a lot of fun. It's going to Yankee Stadium. It's just a classic, like great energy there. And there's nothing better than getting a hot dog and sitting down with a nice ice cold Coke and watching the game. And that's always something that my dad has really appreciated, like just the simplicity of like going there and there's nothing else to be worried about. You're with like a community of people who are excited about the same thing as you are. So it's just, anytime I get to do that, it's a great day. And this summer I actually had a really cool opportunity to intern with Madison Square Garden.
Oh, wow.
And I worked in their event presentation department where I got to help them build out content for this upcoming season. But for the Knicks and the Rangers, all of their in-game elements from, are we going to have a kiss cam this game to what type of on-ice contest are we going to have, and just seeing all of the magic behind going to a game or just watching a game in general was so incredible to me, because as much as I love sports and watching a game and getting pumped for my team and, the players that I love, it always came down to those small elements that kept the audience engaged and, shouted out a fan or gave away a T-shirt, any of those fun moments that make it like lifelong lasting. So being a part of that was extremely special. I got to attend Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Final for the Rangers, which was so awesome. I was actually sitting up in the control room, which they call garden vision, and hearing all of the like working parts and everybody yelling like take camera 3, like all this madness going on. It almost like takes you out of the game because there's so much going on in this small room, and meanwhile there's like thousands of fans outside of this room like screaming for the game, and you're like, oh, I forgot I was at a hockey game because there's so much action going on in here. So that in itself just made me an even bigger fan. And yeah, it's really, really exciting to be a part of.
So that scene in How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, that was you.
You know what? I can't take all the credit, but it's funny you mentioned that too, because Ali Capielli, who I worked with this summer, she is such a creative, incredible person. She actually brought that video into one of the meetings we had, and she was like, I think we would benefit from putting the little cartoon characters like they did. Because if you notice, if you go back and watch the scene, like in between them switching to different couples, they'll have little cartoon moments play, like cutesy little kissing moments, and she brought that up and pitched it in a meeting. So it's funny that you say that.
Yeah. It's funny that movie actually influenced what Madison Square Garden does. And just take me like into those control rooms. Like, how was that? Because I know definitely different from the Q30 media suite. So I'm curious as to like how a professional media control room looked like.
Yeah, so if I'm being honest, it wasn't as fancy as you'd probably expect it to be. And that's something we actually talked about a lot. They said if you go to different arenas, you'll see that the equipment is like very up to date. It's just something that they haven't really got to at Madison Square Garden, but it's incredible. They have like 5 different replay stations. They have a Chiron like we do. It was actually very cool to walk in there and see. I was familiar with some of the equipment. I may not know exactly what to do with it, but I've touched it before because we have it we have it here at Quinnipiac, which is really it honestly like made me really impressed with, you know, how much access we have to the like industry standard equipment. But something really interesting is they for the replays, obviously that's a really important part of sports. So they have like 5 different stations for it, and they use this software called Dreamcatcher, and it is absolutely incredible what this small little box can do, the amount of things. And just seeing that same equipment is used at Yankee Stadium, the same equipment, and it was just so special. I can't even get into, I could talk about this for hours, but yeah, it was super cool.
Yeah, so it's great seeing how much your face lights up talking about this, because that's really what you want to get out of work, is to have these great experiences. And you would say your time in Q30 is very transferable to this kind of professional control room?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, obviously it's on like a completely different scale, but even like the switcher boards we have and everything, like it's all the same stuff. So that just goes to show again that you really do need to put yourself out there, because you never know, like, and try new things, like be technical direct for one show, or, you know, do the audio, because you never know when you'll find yourself in the control room at Madison Square Garden, you know? So you gotta, just be familiar with as much things as you possibly can, you know? Because we have like all the same stuff here, which is really awesome. Like, goes to show like how great we are.
Yeah, living the dream catcher.
Yes,
as one may say. Because I've always been curious, like being in Q30 and seeing like the media suite, and like I watched something like Sunday Night Football with their show, like the control room, and I'm always thinking like, how much does that like switch over like what we do and what they do? Because I've never kind of been in that space. Well, one of my internships, we kind of had a podcast set up similar to this, so that kind of gave me that first dose. But that's really great to hear that kind of what we learn in Q30 is so applicable. Yeah,
it's exactly like, it's not for nothing. Even if, you know, you're like, how could I invest so much time in this? I'm not getting paid. You know what I mean? Like, it's all going to pay off eventually. Like, and you're doing everything for a reason. You know what I mean? Like, these skills are really important to have. And like you said, they are transferable. So yeah. And even another cool thing that I forgot to bring up, because I was just rambling, but it's just a fun feature. So I always wondered while I was watching hockey games, like how they get the camera that's like along the rink on the top to like move across the ice. You know what I mean? Like how it goes back and forth. And it's actually like a little joystick in the control room where he just holds it. It's like a video game. He's just like moving it back and forth sometimes. And it's like, how cool is that? That's somebody's job, just to like watch a hockey game and like it's like a live video game.
Like, tell me more about like being behind the scenes there, because it's such an iconic venue in its own right.
Yeah, I mean, it was incredible. One of the cool opportunities that I had was I shadowed their event production department, where they're really coordinating with the artist team to everything from how many people are going to be at the show, what are we going to sell the tickets for, what type of fan interactions are we going to have throughout the building, like while that relate to the artist's album and like their creative style, and what is going to be on their rider, like all the amount of stuff you can do like in that department is insane. And it almost just inspired me, because I didn't know that all of that was out there, you know. And just being able to see yourself in like so many different roles like makes you almost less worried about like the future too, because you're like, wow, there's so many different avenues I can go and I didn't even know about that. But something that I thought was really cool was how they create all like the fan activation. So basically they work with like an outside company that does like all the creative aspects of it, and then they'll contact, for example, if they're working with Niall's team, they're in contact with Niall and they're like, okay, so what type of visuals are you looking for? And for this particular album, he wanted to do like a subway theme kind of. So they created like a little actual like subway seat. It was so cool. And then like just put his album cover on top of it, and just seeing the way that they months and months and months out are coordinating with his team to like put these things together. It's crazy. Just seeing all of the working parts to such a big production it's so cool. It's so cool. And I could talk about it all day.
Please do. It's great content. But that's very interesting, is like how much marketing goes into like the fan interaction, and you were able to be there at such a huge time with like a Rangers playoff game. Yeah,
I mean, if only they could have pulled it through. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, it was so cool. That was actually my second day on the job.
Wow.
So it started with such a high, for sure.
Yeah, welcome to work.
Yeah, exactly.
And were you able to come across any of the athletes by chance, just doing your job?
So on the last day, there was a special event for Jalen Brunson, because he just got announced as the captain. And so they were doing like a little press conference with him, like in the arena, weirdly, which, you know, because, you know, like the seats are empty, and then there's like they set up like 4 rows of folding chairs and had, you know, like his closest family and friends come. But my co-intern Haley, who she goes to Fairfield University, so she's not too far.
Shout out Haley. Yeah.
Yes, shout out Haley. But we were walking backstage because we had to grab duct tape for something. Like we had very, very, you know, low stakes job here. But of course, as we're walking backstage, we see a Escalade pull up, and I was like, oh no, are we about to see Jalen Brunson? No way. And then Haley's like, oh my gosh, Erin, he's there. He's walking out of the car. Like, she's like, there's no way. And like, obviously we can't really have much of a reaction.
Yeah.
Because actually in the contract, it says like you cannot interact with the athletes or the artists in any way unless they initiate that interaction. So, you know, like he's trying to like, I'm like trying to avoid eye contact with him, but at the same time I'm trying to like get a good glimpse. So it was really cool.
It's like those like British Royal Guard when they're like outside the place, but where you can't, like, if you try to mess with them, they're not going to react.
Exactly. I was trying to keep my composure.
That must have been so cool seeing the King of New York.
It was awesome.
And that was before, I'm trying to think of when the hockey playoffs are. That's before like his big contract, or his contract that he took where he took like a pay cut to help the team.
Oh, yes. This was actually this was actually right after that happened, so he was talking about it a little bit. But it was we started out with a bang by going to the Rangers game and then ended with that special event. So, like, I couldn't be more grateful for that experience. It was just so exciting.
Wow, what a way to, like, bookend it.
I
see
know.
a playoff game and then see Jalen Brunson.
It was pretty wild. And I always, they were so nice to me, too. They treated me so well at Madison Square Garden. Honestly, like, such a great organization for growing in your career, too, because they want to help you. No matter who you are, if they know that you're a Knicks fan alone, they'll be like, oh, okay, like, let's get your foot in the door for you. Like, everyone is just so willing to help there, and I've never seen anything like it. And it makes you so excited about the future, and it makes you, like, a lot more confident about yourself, too, because everybody's extremely encouraging.
Yeah, those are the places you want to be, in the spots you want to find yourself in.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, especially since you're into hockey and you're into basketball and you got to see the Rangers and Jalen Brunson, it was really the perfect combination. Like, it must have been so fun to, like, flex on your brothers that you got to do those things, seeing the Rangers and seeing Jalen Brunson.
Oh my gosh, exactly. They were so supportive, though. Honestly, if it was the other way around, I don't know if I could be that supportive. But
just a little jelly.
Yeah, exactly. Like, a little bit of jealousy. But one of my intern jobs, you'll see why I called it an intern job. Basically, Haley and I were assigned to clean out this closet, like, ongoing, if we never had anything to do. And we would find the coolest things in there. Like, it would be a piece of the court. It would be, like, old signed jerseys. And sometimes they would, like, actually let us take things home, which was, like, just unreal. And I actually brought my brother home, like, a old signed jersey. I can't remember the player. He wasn't on the team, like, anymore. But it was so cool to, like, bring that to give him a little
piece of the experience. Yeah.
He was just so thrilled to, like, have a little, memento. So yeah, it was from a professional standpoint, from a personal standpoint, and just, like, from being, like, a sports and entertainment fan, like, it was so fulfilling all around, and I'm just so happy I got to do that.
Not to keep hitting the dream catcher pun, that is, like you just said, the dream of, like, being in this field where you can be a fan your whole life and then get to be there and see, like, where all the action takes place, and kind of demystifying the whole, like, sports media world too. Where, like, I still, even having been in, like, student media, like, when I watch football games, I was still, like, amazed by, like, how they get to replay so fast, how they have all this coverage, and it's like you got to see that firsthand, and then get to be behind the scenes in so many cool ways, like, and getting to see the playoff game, getting to see Jalen Brunson. So that's, like, you really got the experience. And
I have to say too, like, with working in sports, I feel like it can be intimidating because it's very, very competitive industry. And, a lot of people will think they need to know every player and every statistic and everything. No, like, you just have to have a genuine passion for live entertainment, for sport. Like, you don't need to know all the nitty-gritty details. And I didn't fully realize that until I got there and I got this role. So before having this experience, I don't think I necessarily would have even attempted or tried to go for, like, a career in sports. But after my experience there, the event presentation department that I worked in, it was, like, all women, like, all young women in the department. And that was so inspiring to, like, walk in and on my first day and see a room of, like, beautiful young women. I was like, are you kidding me? This is incredible. Of course, there was men there too, but just seeing that in, like, a male-dominated industry was really inspiring, and just it's so encouraging. I'm so glad I got to have that experience before my senior year of college, because it just made me so excited about the future, because, thinking about graduating can be very intimidating, but at the end of the day, like, there's a place for you somewhere, and like, they need people like us.
I like to think so, and that very much showed you that there's a path forward.
Yeah,
seeing that, and like you said,
exactly.
And saying graduating is very intimidating, that's almost like there has to be a word worse than intimidating to describe what graduating soon is going to feel.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad you're able to, like, really put these film student in Q30 skills to work. So I'd like to go as to like how you learned to apply those and ask you about your time on #that and how you're enjoying being a producer.
Yeah, I mean, this has been honestly one of the greatest experiences of my my college career. Like I said before, I hadn't really fully immersed myself in like a student organization or just like any extracurriculars in general. So when executive producer Michael Katz-Flynn encouraged me to apply,
the master recruiter.
Yes.
I was telling him that he has a great ability to bring people in.
Oh, for sure. Initially, I was like, do I really want to do this? Like, this is going to take up a lot of my time. I don't think I have the skill set for this. I don't know a ton of people in Q30. You know, all these things, all these pros and cons. But at the same time, I saw this as, like, the last opportunity to really put myself out there and do the damn thing. Like, just full force put yourself into it, you know? Like, and I have not regretted it one single bit. Let me tell you, like, even within these first weeks of the semester, I already feel like my confidence growing and just like my skill set growing and just like my ability to even have like conversations with like people that I, you know, because I tend to be more of an introverted person. So when I walk into like a room where I don't really know a bunch of people, like I'll usually kind of like keep quiet. But now like I see myself kind of like putting myself out there more and like entering the conversation and, you know, so like all of these little things that I wouldn't have expected to get from being a #that producer, like it definitely is paid off big time. And I'm so excited to just continue growing and honestly just get more experience like on air too and just creating packages and just learning more about like myself as a creative too. So I think it's just a really, again, it's a great opportunity for me to grow like both personally and professionally. So yeah.
There's nothing more motivating than a ticking clock.
Yes,
that's what
exactly.
I'll say. And I've of course felt this too, and I really appreciate what you said because I'm very much been seeing you letting your self shine, like you said, like going on air, like doing packages, like at the day of this recording, you're going to be hosting the show.
Yes,
and that's very much because I'm an introverted person as well. At least I would consider myself one, and I very much sense that in you too. But I love seeing you kind of express yourself in the work that you're doing. So I love seeing introverts coming out of their shell.
Yes, yeah.
And I've been very much seeing that with you. And like, what are some ways you've been kind of branching out of your shell? What are some ways that you've been branching out of your shell?
So for a while, I remember there was a trend on TikTok that was like getting in touch with your inner child, and everyone would like put a little picture of themselves. But that's honestly been so true for me. Just getting back into all the things that I used to love, my younger self used to love. Like, I remember my dad, like, he would say to me, like, listen, like, I've known you since you were a little girl, and, like, you've always loved to sing and dance, and, like, you know, and, like, he's like, so these things come naturally to me, and once I kind of, like, got back into those things, because from, like, I want to say the end of middle school to the end of high school, I didn't involve myself in any of that stuff. My head was elsewhere in high school. I wasn't very focused or driven on much of anything. And I think once I like got back into like my passion in college and like really committed to that and was like, no, I want to be a media studies major. I want to join student organizations. I want to, you know, really immerse myself in this. That's when I was able to just find my passions and get more comfortable in trying new things. And also I feel like for a while there, like I was nervous about doing things like filming a package or this, that, and the third, because I'm worried about what other people would think of me or like how I'm coming off, and like that's always on the top of my mind. And once I kind of focused on like putting those thoughts, like just really just once I kind of started focusing on just worrying about myself, like, you know, the only opinion that matters is my own. As long as I'm improving and I'm trying new things. Like, it really doesn't matter what other people are saying. And I know it's so hard to, like, actually put into action. But yeah, once I finally got back in touch with, like, my inner child and started, you know, started doing all the things that once made me, like, super happy as a kid, like, it definitely has made an improvement.
I've echoed this on the last few episodes, but to care about the people you care about, and what you're saying very much is in that sentiment that it doesn't really matter what people, because everyone judges everyone, so it doesn't really matter what people think, just to do the things that speak to you. And I'm very glad that you're expressing yourself in that way. And at least myself, I've been very much enjoying it. But again, other people's opinions don't matter. So kind of moving onwards, I'd like to ask you, what are some things that people may not know about you, like fun facts?
The first thing that always comes to my mind, just because of all the icebreakers we've done, you know, you kind of have them, like, memorized.
Oh, yeah.
It's not really a fun fact, but when I was younger, I got attacked in the face by a dog. And I actually had to get, like, 150 stitches in my face. But I always say this as, like, something, like, you may not know about me because, I don't know, it's very interesting. It's like it's a shocking story. And, like, I don't really have any, like, scars from it because my parents were very adamant about, like, you know, like, healing all those. Like, my face didn't see the sun for probably, like, 3 years after it happened. So I always tell that as, like, one of my first, like, icebreaker. Another thing that people probably don't know about me is I genuinely love acting so much. I haven't done, like, a lot of it at all, though. When I was in 6th grade, I went to this acting camp in New York City called the Actors Garage. And at the end of the week-long camp, they had different, like, agents come in on an audition. And I actually ended up getting a call back. And I started going on, like, auditions for commercials. And that was so much fun. I did, like, a Gap audition, Littlest Pet Shop. And then I ended up getting a call back for this one commercial. And I did it, and just, like, being on a set and just even sitting in the makeup chair and, like, feeling all, like, glamorous and getting my makeup done, it was so fun. It felt like a dream come true when I was at that age. So definitely just my love for acting, even though I may not be, like, great at it because I haven't, you know, actually I've taken a few acting classes at school, but you know, I haven't really been, like, in theater or anything like that since then. So I think that's something I want to, like, get back into for sure.
I've seen you in False Start. That was a great delivery. For those who don't know, False Start is a short film Erin made.
Yes.
You had a little role in it. You delivered the one line. It was a one-line project. So I thought that was very good. And that dog story, it's, you know, someone thinks their problems are bad. Getting a dog attacked by a dog, that definitely was not fun. But yeah, you're a trooper. Yeah. And that is a compelling story. And you talk about loving acting, which very much leads us well into our next topic, which is one thing you love and one thing you strongly dislike.
One thing I love, which is kind of shocking after the story I just told, I love dogs so much. I have one at home. Her name is Kira. I miss her. She's actually 16, so every time I leave home, I'm like, you better be here when I get back, because if you're not, we're going to have some very big issues. But yeah, just even, like, volunteering at animal shelters is something that's so fulfilling. And just seeing the amount of love that they give back to you, like, it's, yeah, so that's one thing I strongly love. And something that I dislike, I really don't like mushrooms. Very random, but it's never been a fan, ever. My mom would try to, like, sneak it into a sauce. She'd try to, you know, throw it, you know, hide it, conceal it in a dish, and I was always like,
You sniff it out.
Yeah, I'm like,
the bloodhound. Yeah. Yeah, this is a very interesting vibe check question, because you're so sweet that I didn't know what you would come up with for this, and coming up with a food is very on brand. So kind of moving into, like, a question that's always very hard to answer. What are some of your hopes and dreams professionally or in general?
Yeah, so I definitely want to have, like, a pretty dynamic career that's not very 9 to 5, or I want my day-to-day to look very differently. And let me start off by saying I would love to be in like the live entertainment and sports industry, especially with the recent experience I had, that I would love to like be in that space. But, it would be fun to like have a job where I can be in the office for like a certain amount of the day, and then like go on site somewhere to like shoot something. I actually spoke to a woman who works for the Rockettes who had she worked on their social team, and that was kind of like her day to day. Like some days she'd be in the office all day, other days she'd be on site with the Rockettes, like doing filming content and planning things, from point A to point B, and like even doing fun stuff like filming a dance to Sabrina Carpenter's Espresso. Like it was just super fun stuff that they get to do, but then they also get to have that side where they're kind of, leaving their work in the office and like writing press releases. So I in a dream world, I would be doing something where I can have that balance.
Yeah, I very much agree. I feel like that's like the communication student experience is wanting the day-to-day to not be the day-to-day, to have different things. Like that's something I appreciated about the internship I had, where everything's very different. And then that's like really the goal. I feel like that's what's most exciting, is when you don't know what's ahead, but you're just kind of along for the ride. And that's very, very interesting, the path you're on. Like any personal goals, like outside of work, that you would like to accomplish?
Definitely. I mean, personal growth it goes hand in hand with career growth as well. So I definitely just want to I know I keep talking about this a lot, but continue to just put myself out of my comfort zone. I want to grow my confidence, and I just want to be helpful and encouraging, especially to, like students on campus who were once in a similar position as me and like didn't really know if they want to get involved. Like I want to get to a place where I can be that person that encourages someone to put themselves out there and just, realize the amount of potential that they have.
You are very inspiring.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
I am very inspired by hearing this story. Like I was messaging you, like trying to help organize this, and I'm like, I don't know a lot of Erin Christensen lore, and I've learned some, and I'm very amazed. I've been amazed by a lot of my guests on here.
Oh, I bet.
And you are very much one of them. And to kind of get to know some little last piece of lore, what are some of your favorite movies?
Right off the top of my head, my all-time favorite movie is Coraline. I mean, ever since I was a little girl, that movie has been so special to me. From the storyline to the amount of work that went into making that film. I mean, it took, I think, like 4 years for them from like the pre-production to actually shooting it, and all of the amount of dolls they created, the amount of little tiny outfits they created for Coraline, and just all of the things, and just being able to actually, like, I know they have a museum for it now, which I've never had the opportunity to go to, but just like the fact that you can actually look at the Coraline house and see all like the little details, and like there's a clear it's just very clear that a lot went into that, and it's just like a masterpiece from start to finish for me. And I love like the spooky nature of it too. And I remember like a lot of people would be like, really, like that's kind of like a scary movie, and I was like, no, like it's not really though, like because Coraline is such like a adventurous like spunky girl, and like very angsty, and so I feel like I kind of resonated with that as a young girl, and I just love, I could watch that movie over and over again. Oh my gosh.
I sense that you give that a little bit, that kind of vibe. Do you have any other favorites?
Probably The Wizard of Oz is like something that comes to mind. My favorite movies are ones that make me feel like very nostalgic of like just like certain times in my life. Another one being Pitch Perfect. These aren't necessarily, like cinematic masterpieces, but they carry so much meaning to me. And even like singing the soundtracks of Pitch Perfect with my friends, like always a good time, and just it's a movie that will never get old for me. Anything that's just continuously going to give me the same feeling I had when I first watched it, that's like a favorite film for me.
Yeah, I mean, you like what you like, and it's about like what you experience with other people too, much like sports, where you talk about singing with your friends. Like that's what helps makes movies so great is that you can experience it with other people. And overall, Erin, I just wanted to thank you so much for coming on today.
This
was so much fun. And before we go, do you have anything you'd like to leave people with?
I don't know how many times I can say this, but just don't stay in your comfort zone, because you will not grow from it. And try new things and be yourself. It's hard, but it will actually make all the difference for you, I promise.
Very much so, very much so. And Erin, it's just been so great getting to know you this year. Like, you're always so much fun to be around, got the big bright smile.
Oh, thank you.
Like, you're very girl next door.
Oh,
like,
that's
very,
so kind.
Very relatable, very humble. And I would say this a lot about you, Erin, as well, that whenever I see you, I know I won't have a bad day because I saw Erin Christensen that day.
Oh my gosh.
I told Sam Shaw this as well, because I put you all in that similar category where just seeing you just always brightens my day. You brighten every room you're in.
That's so kind. I'm sure everyone would say the same about you. I mean, you're
I hope so.
seriously the sweetest, kindest, and hardworking. I mean, the list goes on, and everybody sees that in you. So
Thank you so much. Now that made like I said, you made my day. And overall, getting to learn about you is so interesting too. Like, I didn't know about that experience, and it really speaks to you and how hardworking you are. And I think it's something that I hope a lot of people hear about, because I think it'll inspire a lot of people, and especially a lot of girls and women too, who want to be in that field and see that there's very much a path forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you so much for sharing that, and of course being on this episode. And as always, this is Ryan Zicast with the Zicast, where everyone has a story, signing off. Thank you so much for watching.